And I need your permission to record this. Obviously, you know how that goes.
You have my permission to record this interview.
Okay, comes from John the paralegal. So,
Actually, could you speak up more though? It's still pretty
yeah,
quiet.
yeah. Hey, let me get on this here. See if I. Well, the microphone is at its highest level. That's as high as it'll go.
Let me see. Okay, I just turned my volume up. So say
Okay, is that
something.
is that any better?
That is better, yeah.
Okay, all right. So I'm usually the loud, boisterous one. So I'm surprised. I'm like, wow. So,
We'll see.
uh, all right. Well, John, let's kick this off here. Congratulations, 30 years of the Undressed album.
I
Uh
know it's hard to believe it's been that long, but yeah, it is. It's true.
well, but you see, I'm like thinking, okay, well, just looking at you here, he still has his hair from 30 years ago. Me, no, it's
It's gray though, but it's still there, yeah.
yeah, you've still got it. So let's see. We are celebrating, and this is the 30-year tour, right? Anniversary tour
Yes.
of the Undressed album. So I've covered Pansy Division a couple of times. This was the first record. You had already been in a band previously, and then decided, no, wait, we need to have a gay rock band. We need to be that now.
Well, I mean, I had actually quit playing music because my first band was a little successful, The Outnumbered,
Right.
but I thought, well, it's really hard to make it. And we had 3 albums out, did some touring, had a little bit of notice. Um, at this point, that's kind of obscure and in the past. But but when I had the idea for Pansy Division, I thought this is something I have to do because it's something I've been waiting for to happen. And now that I had this idea, I thought this idea is really timely. It's really of the moment. I've got to get going. And so I wrote a bunch of songs real quickly, and that ended up being our first album. And that was, I mean, the album came out after we'd been together for 2 years, and so it came out at the beginning of '93, and we toured later in '93, and then by a year after that, we were on tour with Green Day. So things happened fast, and the the thing about the album is that for us, Undressed was the first real statement. It's like you've got a band, you're making an album. What are you going to do? So it's kind of a manifesto. It's a manifesto of being able to say anything you wanted to in a song, especially about gay stuff. So we tried to be as uncensored and just put everything we had into it because we thought we might not get to make another record. So we had, all the first batch of songs is really that initial impetus to have a gay rock band. And then the album cover, which has a full, I mean, if you have the LP, on the front, you see the top half of a guy. If you have the CD booklet and you can fold it up, it is a full centerfold of a nude young man. So
With
that
long
was
hair, by
our
the way. Yeah.
manifesto of the
Okay.
time. It's like just be as open and out and push the envelope as much as we could because who knows how much of a chance we'll get. Turns out we had a lot of other chances, but that was the very beginning.
Well, so right, that was it came out came out funny.
It came
Um
out, I know. It
yeah,
was released,
it was
but it
released
came out too.
and but like you said, with Outnumbered, you went 2 years from starting the band to recording a record, which is itself very
No,
good. But
Pansy Division.
oh,
With
sorry, but
Pansy Division, it was 2 years.
and so 2 years from start to an album and then touring, it really did kick off. And I mean, but you and I have also talked before. You kept saying stuff about how uh being gay, you're not supposed to like long haired dudes, but that theme that goes through this whole record quite a bit, man.
Yeah.
And I okay, so let me just look at it this way, right? So as you had said that when I first spoke to you, what, 2-3 years ago, I guess, when we talked.
Hmm.
And uh my I came into Pansy Division about the time of Quite Contrary. That was when I first heard you guys,
Uh-huh.
was then. And so that was kind of my first, again, I had listened to that. We were just doing old punk tapes back and forth, or tapes of each other's CDs at the time. And I got that with some old Black Flag bootlegs and a Circle Jerks record, and also bootleg. And that was kind of the direction where I'd been listening to. And then that was kind of like, oh wow, Quite Contrary was the one that kind of hooked me there. This was a very different, and the fact that, yes, it's old school punk, it was fun, but wow, you put those terms out there. Like, I mean, you had no shame. That was some of the most over the top gay content I had ever heard. At the
Yeah.
time, even until now, it still is probably one of the most gay content records, like up there, overdoing Divine, You Think You're a Man kind of thing.
We did it that way because it was what we didn't see and what we didn't hear in music. So I thought, if nobody else wants to cover this territory and really sing explicitly about, I mean, I'm specific to gay men because I am one,
Right.
but it was also for people who were not a gay male, who could then listen in and hear something unique and specific. Because some of our songs, I think, are universal, and others are very specific. I mean, if you listen to a presumably heterosexual love song, it's a universal expression. I think it's the same thing with some of our songs, but then others are very specific to our milieu. So we wanted to be both specific and universal. And different songs do that, and others, some are more universal than others. But I thought, we don't want to be too universal, because then you miss the interesting details that make us unique and make our experience unique.
Sure. Well, I mean, it opened with the song like you just threw out there, versatile, right? I mean, you might as well get it out there, right? I know plenty of straight guys, they want to know. I mean, there was some funny, there was a lot of I didn't notice as much anger. This album didn't have as much anger or in your face to it as some of your other, later work, but this was very fun. Fuck Like Bunnies. Brilliant.
Well,
Okay,
there are
go ahead.
some songs on the album that are more political than others. Anthem, the last song on the album, that's really the manifesto. And we thought that it was the AIDS crisis. So many people were dying, and we thought, we need to do something life affirming. We need to show that you can survive that era, and that was one of the reasons we wanted to make a really fun record. But we didn't want to make a really fun record without context. So a song like Anthem, which is very funny, still has this sting to it, and calls out politicians. So it is a declaration of, we are going to be what we want to be. And some of the songs like Story So Far and Luck of the Draw, those are more personal and more romantic and not as humorous. But when you get songs like Bunnies and The Cocksucker Club and Versatile, there's a lot of humor in that record. Curvature. So, these are singing about the curve of a guy's dick is not something I believe anybody had ever covered before in a song lyric. So I thought, we can be unique with this. So let's do the things that will, all these people I think about who were gay and weren't out yet, other musicians. It's like, well, they're not going to sing about this because it'll ruin the commercial side of their careers. And we thought, We have nothing to lose. Put it all out there. And that's what made us popular, and that's what gained us the following that we still have 30 plus years later.
Yeah, well, yeah, you had talked about that. You said just even a while back how surprised you were that young people, younger generations were fanning up the flames about this, going, "Yeah, have you heard these guys?"
Yeah,
And you were surprised to find, wait, these young kids are listening to us like that. So,
it's just so hard to there's an avalanche of music that comes out every week, so to have people dig and excavate us from that pile, especially younger people, it's I have a lot of gratitude about that.
sure. I mean, but it also says, you guys were the trailblazers, and again, so many other bands have stood on your shoulders for what you did. Even and you guys are now starting to get the credit for it, which you know, but better late than never. But
I think
this,
we I think we've been we were covered pretty well. We got good press. We didn't sell a huge amount of records, but we sold plenty, and that's really that was the goal, to be able to do it. And we always thought, well, we're not going to do this forever, but on the other hand, we're still having fun doing it, so why stop? It's just hard because we all have jobs and live in different places to be able to do the band as much as we would like to, but we still do it every once in a while. So what we've done is booked 3 weekends this year in different parts of the US to go and play. We're going to do Midwest, Upper Midwest in June. We're going to do Northwest in end of September, and East Coast around New York in November. That's as much as we can make time for, where we can all gather together. So just to be able to do this still it's really fun.
well,
And the
like
difference is we don't get in the van anymore. We have to fly
you
places,
have to
and that's
fly
a
places.
big difference.
Yeah, you miss out on the driving for 10 hours at a time, and yeah, all
We'll
the
get a little bit of it. We have to drive from Minneapolis to Milwaukee, and then Milwaukee to Chicago. Well, that's short, but we're going to have to do some driving,
do
but not
some, yeah.
for a couple days as opposed to a couple months at a time.
Yeah, well, Chris just finished up a good chunk of shows with Gacy DC, and then
Yeah.
he's going to turn around and be doing so busy for him this year. Because
Yeah.
last year you just did a handful of shows, like you did those, you did those, the just a couple of those gigs of the bars and whatnot, and then you did the Southern Decadence. Well, you did Mosswood, which I remembered interviewing somebody a week later was actually going to be playing at Mosswood, and I can't remember who it was. It was last year was a crazy year, but how did Mosswood go?
Mosswood was fantastic. I've been going to that festival for years. It used to be called the Burger Boogaloo back when there was a record label called Burger Records who were involved with it, who are now defunct and have nothing to do with it. But there were these people in Northern California, Total Trash Productions, who had put on some festivals before. They still run it, and to be able to play on the same bill with Bikini Kill 30
Right,
years
yeah.
after we had first played with them, it was unbelievable. And, to have John Waters come out and give you a verbose introduction, over the top, is just thrilling. It's one of the best shows we've ever had, and it's 30 years into our career. It was a great day. And, we weren't able to play Southern Decadence. We went to New Orleans and the gig got pulled because of permitting problems, which is a real drag. But we did get an expenses paid trip to New Orleans, so that was nice. But we didn't get to play. So we just had 3 shows in California last year. So now we're trying to go around the country and play a few more, and then next year we'll try to do that again.
Oh, okay. So, all right. Well, next summer then I'm gonna try and hit it. I'll try and find. I That would be a lot of fun to actually see you guys take the stage, and I could
Where do you
probably
live?
not. I'm in Salt Lake, so but it wouldn't be as awesome as see there with John Waters making the intro. But damn
No.
it, that would be
You
that
know what?
would.
He'd been the MC of that festival for at least 5 years,
Wait,
and I
wait, it
would
was
see him
Josie. It was Josie up there, wasn't? Didn't Josie Cotton play that?
um,
I think she was. I remember looking at the lineup, going, I know because I knew a bunch of the people that were on that bill, but
I
John
don't
Waters.
recall. Though I did meet her a few months ago when she
Oh,
played,
jealous,
and I'd
jealous.
never seen her. And I told her that we'd covered one of her songs, the song that was in Valley Girl, but
Mhm.
but she didn't even play that song. She'd heard of us but hadn't heard our version. So I told her how she could. But that was
Oh,
nice because I remember buying Johnny Are You Queer,
uh-huh.
when that came out like 82. So
Yeah.
so that was cool to meet her.
Oh, yeah.
To meet someone whose song we've done.
I worship that woman. I worship the ground she walks on, and she's one of my favorite people in the whole universe. So, all right. So you did not end up because remember, you had said you were going to play Southern Decadence in the smallest bikini that you could find, and I pointed out with socks, and you said yes, with socks. But you didn't end up playing that one. But I hope that
No.
New Orleans was fun for you anyway that weekend.
It was disappointing to not play, but we will get back there because it was fun to be there. And there's a really good local band that tried to get us, who set it all up, called Dog Park Dissidents. So they're worth listening to and seeing. So I hope we can go back there and play with them again. Play with
Oh,
them
okay.
and
Well,
actually do it next time.
okay, so let me just go because I hadn't listened to the record in some time, and just going back over it again, thinking, wow, I had to put the timestamp of this is a 30-year-old record again because after you have these albums, you listen to them and you don't pay attention to how long they've been in your life. I'm going back to this. First of all, the hippie dude, I was laughing about how you had pulled the Soho riff into there. My hippie dude, my hip, hip, hip. I was like, oh man, I remember that.
That has got to be one of the most time-stamped songs, though, unfortunately,
Well,
because it really does because of the reference to the other song, but
mhm.
also because that was an old version of San Francisco that just doesn't exist anymore. Um, I all these young people had come to San Francisco when the Grateful Dead were playing, and I didn't like the Grateful Dead, but I thought a lot of the fans were really cute. These young long-haired
Well,
guys
yeah,
walking
there was
down
the
Haight
line.
Street. So I thought I'm going to write a song about that. But that's not a song that we'd play now because it's really of a certain moment that we're not going to try to pull back. But a lot of the album I think is held up really well,
well, so
time wise.
like okay, the one that stood out, like okay, the femme in the black leather jacket, right?
Yeah.
Um, at the beginning of that, I remember listening to that, gosh, forever ago, and the image came to my mind of the Psychedelic Furs album cover of Midnight to Midnight with Richard Butler up there in the
Hmm.
black leather jacket with
Yeah.
his long. Remember that, right? And that's
Yeah,
how
I
kind
do.
of how you were describing it, very androgynous and all that. And then and then it reminded me of all the guys because I had that black leather jacket. I still
Hmm.
do, but I wore mine in high school, and I had my long hair, but I was the long-haired punk, the goth guy, right? But we were all standing out there with the other long hair metalhead dudes, and you could tell who was the punks and who were the metalheads
Yep.
based on the type of hair they had. But that's all who was standing out there smoking, and I remember listening to that going, oh, that moment, you just nailed that moment in high school where I was one of those guys out there like that,
Yeah.
and it and it did make me laugh. Again, with the joke of the hair that you still have yours, but I don't have mine from that long ago. But I I wanted to ask, so like you said about hippie dude, the other pieces of the subject matter there, a lot of that. Do you still find those themes to be valid today, or current? Do you
A
see
lot of
some of
what's
those that still are after a 30-year on this record?
a lot of what's in that album is about desire. And desire really never goes away. So I think that a lot of it really does stand up in terms of if you hear this today, what I'm singing about doesn't sound like something from the past. It sounds like something that could be very present, with a couple of exceptions. But the uh, but yeah, I mean, I've gone back and listened to. I don't sit down and listen to our whole albums very much. I'll listen to like a song or two here and there. I'll think, hey, what does that sound like? But I listen to the whole album, and it's like most of it stands up really well time wise, and that was my goal. So putting in a little timestamp references, I think, luckily there aren't that many of them.
Well, I do like the fashion points that you're making in there. I was like, okay, I could see where that was, and that would still kind of almost apply today. You weren't saying like, oh, in your 87 Chevy or whatever, right? Like,
Right.
and so you got away with that, but really it was a lot of fun to go back and listen to, and it's just great hearing you talk about it at this 30 years later. So you said you have that handful of shows. Are you trying to squeeze any more in, or get any
We
more
don't have
festivals in, or
time.
you don't have time?
It was tough to find 3 weekends where we were all available, even going a year in advance. So we're all busy. We all have different things going on um, between work and family and and
Everything, yeah.
vacations. This is the thing, I've got vacation time for my job. Most of it's going to the band this year, so that's fun, but means I won't be taking other vacations. But but yeah, it's we won't be able to squeeze out anymore this year. This will be the largest number of shows we've done in a year, and I don't know how many years, maybe almost 10, I think.
Okay. But you are trying to cross that threshold of 1,000 shows here soon, right? That'll
Yes,
be
it's
next
going to take
summer.
a while.
Okay, be next summer.
The thing is, there's a possibility we'll go to Europe next year, so won't be a long tour, but that would really help the numbers.
Well, because you were at
Getting,
980 something, right? So
I think
you're
like 979, 980,
979,
something
right? Yeah.
around there.
So you'll be able to cross it, maybe, and maybe I'll just, no matter where you are, I'll fly out there to see your 1,000th gig. That would be the
I hope we do it in San Francisco. If it turns out that it happens to be while we're in Europe, then we'll have an honorary thousandth show probably in
in
San
San
Francisco.
Francisco.
We
All
formed in San
right.
Francisco. No one lives there anymore from the band, unfortunately, but we'll go back because that's still our home,
Okay.
our spiritual home.
Well, Jon, thank you for the time on this one, and I wish you all the best on this tour. I'm going to put this up there so that everybody at Instinct will at least hit those shows on those 3 weekends, and I hope that you fill the venues, make lots of loud, rude noise, and that everyone has a good time, and sell a bunch of T-shirts, right?
A few. How many can
Okay.
you carry on a plane? I don't know.
All right. Well,
I've already got gear to carry.
all right. Well, all the best, Jon. Thank you for your time, and have a great time on the tour, man.
Thank you, Jeremy.
All
Have a
right.
good
We'll
one.
see you. Bye.
All right. Bye bye.